So hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for the wrap-up of InterAction, which was a Galway 2020 and Galway Theatre Festival production. We're joined here with Sorcha Keane, the director of Galway Theatre Festival, James Harrold, Denise, who was the project producer from 2020, and we're also joined with by the 6 InterAction artists as well. So I just want to briefly hand you over first to Sorcha Keane from the Galway Theatre Festival.
Thanks very much, Jane. This is a great kind of moment, and I'm glad we're all here to celebrate the end of the 2 weeks. It's been really exciting for me, both as festival director, but also as somebody who is generally interested in theatre and art, to see how adaptable and brave you were with your work. Obviously, the festival was due to be launched, or the InterAction project was due to be launched the day everything started to shut down. So it really has had a very interesting time, even just from that short space of time from launch through to project. But it's been such an amazing project to be working on and to be part of as a festival since the bid book, and to see how it has evolved and how the artists have taken the idea of digital technologies, participatory theatre, and really just run with it. And there's a lot of really exciting work that I think has started now. And I was really enjoying seeing how diverse all the projects were, from the workshops through to the scratch showings that you've shared with us the past 2 weeks. I would like to take this moment while I have you all here, I suppose, to thank the artists themselves for their generosity in what they've shared with us, to thank City Council for their support of Galway Theatre Festival and of InterAction, to thank Galway 2020 and in particular Mairead and Denise for all of their incredibly hard work with Jane, the producer, because particularly this past couple of months has been very difficult for everybody who's involved in the arts in Galway, and also in Galway 2020, which should have been such a spectacular year. And last but by no means least, I want to thank Jane Hanberry, who has done an absolute power of work in taking this project from what Mairead Chroinin had kind of started off, and developing it and then adapting it with such enthusiasm and creativity to something that worked really well for this kind of digital, the digital sphere and the totally digital sphere. So thank you all, and I'm looking forward to seeing how all of the work develops in the future.
Well, thanks very much, Sorcha, for that. I have muted some of you, so just if you make sure that you unmute yourselves before you click in. James, are you able to speak there? I accidentally put James on mute. No, James, we can't hear you.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
We can indeed. So if you just want to say a few words there.
So greetings. This is the little bastard that caused all the trouble. This is the virus, by the way. If you can see that. I'm delighted to be saying a few words at the start of this last wrap-up session. And I have to say it has been a remarkable couple of weeks. And it's a testimony to everybody who's involved in putting it together and everyone who participated. It's a time when, you know, we're also working remotely and sort of living in our own heads, and also living in the screens in front of us and the screens of others. But it sends me back very much, I think, of one of the great theatre masters, Samuel Beckett, and thinking Beckett would very much be interested in this world at the moment, because he espoused technology in ways. It was a different, simpler technology in those days, of course, but how people interact with technology to go back into themselves, to find their own stories, to go into their troves of memories, to express themselves and to look at new worlds in the midst of it all. And I think InterAction has done that. It's been incredibly difficult couple of months for us, and I don't think it's by any means over, but I think that the InterAction project has triumphed in adversity and has kept The questions coming kept us entertained, involved, very, very thought-provoking stuff, and it will set us in good store for the future. It's a real credit to Galway Theatre Festival and to Galway European Capital of Culture and to all the participants that it happened, and it looks to the future. Theatre, I think, started off on backs of carts in the Middle Ages. There's a lot of different things where it started from. Started in ancient Greece, we know, and various different versions of where it started from. But it's where it's going now is the challenge. It's an almighty challenge with the distancing issue. So we're going to be looking at all sorts of ways to do things out in the open air, more remote work, work using technology. This has responded really well to it. It won't be long now until we're looking at the arts grants, I'm happy to say. The council is coming back to meeting in reality, which it had to do. So you're well set for that. I want to thank in particular Sorcha of the Galway Theatre Festival and Jane, who has done a fabulous job. I know that there was one particular day at the beginning of all this crisis when it seemed that both the Theatre Festival and the Edinburgh Festival, I think they were pulled within 24 hours of one another, which were the two big gigs for Jane, but she just sailed on, carried on nonetheless, and really placed this project into the real mainstream of Galway art and discourse as it stands at the moment. So congratulations to Denise and Mairead, to all the performers and everybody who participated in any way. It's something to hold dear and something for the future. So good luck, and Sinead from myself and this COVID virus. Okay.
Thank you very much, James. Someone in particular that I really want to thank who got the project this far and who was just so extremely helpful the whole way along was Denise. And I just want Denise to say a couple of words, because through thick and thin I could ring her anytime, whether it be for advice or event or anything, and she really believes in the project. So I'll just hand you over to Denise very briefly.
Thanks, Jane. So I suppose I have been involved in Galway 2020 since the bid phase, so I'm familiar with the project all the way through that. And then when I started working full time with Galway 2020 and into delivery mode, I was passionate about the project and making sure that we could make it happen. And I'm so glad that it was so successful, because it has been so successful. I think that when we all got to shut down everything in March, that you were so adaptable straight away. And that just goes to show how great the artists were, that they were able to just take this project and reimagine it online so quickly and so brilliantly. So I think that just goes to show the future of digital arts and how important it is, and how we can take this art form and really develop it in Ireland, and maybe have like a new conversation, which can happen now. Hopefully we can take it after this project into a new direction, but also looking at kind of the arts in general and where we are now, and even in European capacity, which I think is a conversation that we need to have as well. But I just want to thank all the artists. I think the work was just brilliant. I have just been blown over by all of you. Each of the pieces, I just have been following it all quietly here in the background, but I absolutely just can't get over how well you did. Because I know that you couldn't, we had equipment issues and a few other things, and there was a few struggles, but I think that you just delivered spectacularly. The feedback from everybody has been so positive. And I mean, a lot of the other projects in Galway 2020 have been postponed or had to be reimagined. This one stayed strong and we were able to keep on track. And I think you should be very proud of that. And I just think it's just been, you should really just give yourself a good pat on the back. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Denise. One person in particular I also need to thank, apart from, of course, all of the artists, but in particular, I want to thank Mairead Chroinin, John Rogers and Feilim O'Halon, who were kind of original creators of this project back at the Galway 2020 bid book stage. So Mairead, I was just wondering if you could say a few words just about your experience over the last kind of 4 years and what it feels like to be finished this side of InterAction. I may have muted Mairead.
Right, yeah. Thanks. Well, first of all, I suppose thanks so much to you, Jane, for doing such an incredible job with the project. I think it's just grown and become just an amazing thing that I think we weren't expecting, even as artists, you know, when we were back dreaming the project 4 years ago. I suppose when we all came together 4 years ago, we didn't really know that what would happen in terms of COVID-19 and kind of the direction of theatre and performance. So it's really interesting to think that we were kind of very interested in those kind of interactions and that kind of digital technology then, and now it's taken on a whole new resonance. And I think, you know, one of the great things is, I know Feilim has been in conversation with London's Untitled for 4 years, and it was so great to see that kind of come to fruition and have that amazing interview with them, and hopefully have them over to Galway at some stage in the future. And similarly then with John having the connection with Mairead, and I think as well, just seeing, I suppose we had proposed the idea of it being a lab, with the idea that it would engender some kind of connection between the 6 artists who are making work. And I certainly felt, as an artist, I felt really lucky to be able to transition onto the project as an artist. And it was just, I really enjoyed that coming together and that making of work, individually, but also kind of collectively, and hearing about people's processes and checking in with people and everything like that over the month. So I just think that model really came into its own, especially when we had to go digital, and kind of gave, for me at least, kind of that sense of camaraderie that you get in theatre that I think is really kind of special. So I just want to really thank the Theatre Festival and Galway 2020 and yourself, Jane, and the board of GTF for all the support and just getting the word out there, and to thank all the participants as well, because I think we've all had like really interesting feedback, and you know, they're all works in progresses that are out there, so it's been really, really useful to have people interacting with the work and to hear what they have to say, and hopefully to be able to carry on with it.
Mm-hmm. Another person that I just want to ask how they're getting on is Eszter Nementhi. She created an incredible work in progress that was a little bit complicated, with lots of different participants and scripts and radio and things like that, but in particular also her workshop sold out and had people from all over Europe in attendance. So Eszter, could you just give a little bit of feedback of how you got on with the project?
Yeah, no, it's been great. Like what Mairead was saying, like being part of a group in this moment when we were all super separated has been such a like nice feeling of like, okay, I'm working in my living room in Brussels, but somehow actually I'm in Galway because anyway geography is cancelled, so it doesn't matter. And then I'm part of a thing, and then I'm held, and so that has been really important, I think, in the development, and especially the last 2 weeks. It's been like really fun, like checking in with people every day or every other day, and kind of hearing little bits and seeing screen shares of work before in progress or whatever. And yeah, like also like playing with these forms and also trying to be live in this situation has been for me super interesting, but very, yeah, like somehow I got to try what live means, and both with the radio and then also with the workshop, and kind of discovering the ways in which it's quite the same, and then of course the ways in which it totally isn't. But yeah, no, it's been really informative also of this space that is suddenly appearing, that is so disconnected but actually super connected. Like I couldn't have been this much in Galway that I was. So that has been a real positive thing. And then yeah, like the workshop, that people could be there that couldn't have been there. They wouldn't have been there. That they would not have traveled for 2 days to Galway. It would have added a kind of cost, even if the workshop is free, that would just not have happened. And it's super open, and I was so impressed by that kind of access that it created, that of course I knew but I didn't expect.
no, it was really, really fantastic to see all those people participate in the workshop. Another work in particular that really blew me away with its format, and I think has really strong legs, is Tara J. Burke's work. Tara, could you just tell us a little bit about the format of creating what you made? I just thought it was really interesting and really different.
Yeah, of course, Jane. So essentially my project anyways changed quite a bit from what it was originally meant to be. So even just moving from that, I wanted to keep the integrity of the original piece, but also just embracing the fact that this is a whole new format, and what can I do out of my bedroom, essentially, you know, what I can do by myself here. So just thinking of that, it all started to come together, and I was reflecting a lot on how I was consuming media, in particular in social media. And just for that, I really wanted to embrace this digital age that all of us are kind of coming to the front with. Like, it's been prevalent for so long, just using technology and how much we are using it. And it was just bringing that to the forefront. So yeah, my project, I don't have a theatre background. So it was interesting to see that I was trying to create something interactive. So I used mainly a website and was trying to create a small style ARG, which is an alternate reality game. So it was just using media that we usually use to just focus on that and get people interacting in a way that they usually do, but it still feels foreign, essentially, because you're being told to do it this way. Yeah. So that's what my piece was really focusing on. And initially, I was kind of just doing it to see what the opposite of my original piece was. But I feel like there is potential for it now, and that it actually has grown, like there is potential for it to grow into something. So that's been great for the digital aspect of this, and just embracing that and having the feedback. And that's been a great thing for this project, just collaborating with everyone over the time and just seeing how everyone has adapted. So for me, that's been a big thing. And yeah, honestly, that's one of the biggest takeaways I have, was just that this wouldn't have happened if this situation didn't happen at the exact time it happened at, which is really interesting as well. But it's something that I'm really grateful for, because I wouldn't have done it this way otherwise.
Yeah, no, it was really, really great to have you on board, Tara, and I'm looking forward to working with you again in the future on this, because I was really impressed by it. Another person that I was also super impressed with, and I've actually been watching the video kind of on repeat in the background, is Conway's work. Padraig, could you give us a little bit of detail about your super visual work that is now available to view on interactiongalway.com? So Padraig, take it away there.
How are you? I had a lot of the background work done, you know. I did AutoCAD for a while, and I got into Victory Over the Sun. I'd say I was introduced to it about 10 years ago. So, that suprematist, non-objective work, and trying to get a grip on what the black square was, the zero form, essentially kind of an iconic modernist work. So it is very much a modernist piece, which is, I suppose we're probably in a postmodernist world now, but I was particularly interested in Liszewski's use of technology and his approach as well. The more I got into it, then I just kind of developed an appreciation for Russian avant-garde work, you know. So this has been a great opportunity for me to collate a lot of that research, because I think theatre makers are probably more interested in avant-garde theatre and maybe revisiting old interpretations or older works and try and bring it into the contemporary. Where am I going with this? Yeah, I got into I started on the visual side, and then as I explored in the last couple of weeks, particularly when I was on the internet, I really started getting into the language and trying to piece it all together. You know, there's a lot of different productions online, and a lot of it in Russian and German and that. So I became very focused on the actual language and the musicality of it. So eventually the work of Malevich wasn't to the foreground. It was Krushnik's work or Maitutin's music. It became very much a process of theatre making. So it's been fascinating because there's been these little figurines essentially inhabiting my space for the last few weeks, you know, but it's been thoroughly enjoyable because it has introduced me to the deeper thinking behind the actual opera Victory Over the Sun and Eliziski's work. And then, of course, it leads to a whole slew of other aspects to potential theatre making. So it's unfortunate that we didn't get a chance to experiment in the O'Donoghue Theatre and have more of an opportunity to work with real people and exchange ideas on a more one-on-one basis, but maybe that'll come to pass. But I'm glad the way it turned out under the circumstances, and let's hope we can kick it another way down the line, because I've been kicking it every now and again. I get an opportunity to progress it, so this is where it's at the moment, and I'm delighted to have had the opportunity to make the work, and it's there as it is at the minute. So
well, on that
thank you
note,
for the work, and thanks to everybody else that had a part to play, and even though we only met briefly, it was nice to meet you. And anyway, we'll have a little toast.
That's it.
Thanks anyway. So
well, on that note, speaking of the O'Donoghue Centre and about physical work, we do have a little announcement, which is that John Rogers, his work in progress is continuing, and we have definite funding secured for his physical show. So I just want John to say a few words about his experience so far and about what he's looking to the unknown future at with the work. John, I may have muted you.
No, I muted you. I thought I'd do it before someone else got the chance. Hello all. Just before I start, I really want to thank you, Jane, for all your hard work and everyone else there. It was above and beyond. So thanks to you and the rest of the team. So yeah, when we realized that we were going to be taking InterAction offline or online, I should say, I started immediately to start thinking about, well, what are the things actually that I can do with having a virtual audience, an audience that's watching online, that would be that's easier than if the audience was present in the space. And that's why my collaborator Mairead Thomas and I came up with the idea of a sort of augmented reality live representation of a digital character, and so that the footage of me would be live, and then the computer would be rendering her presence and or their presence, I should say, the AI's presence, and that I would then interact with them. So that was the interaction between me and the technology, and then the idea of doing it live was the interaction between me and the audience, and the interaction between the digital character and the audience. So that was that. There are ways of doing that, you know, in the physical space, but they require the sort of budget that Damon Albarn's Gorillas can have, so he can have his virtual characters on stage. So that was an advantage to do it this way. And then I had a really enjoyable time just starting off, no matter how technology heavy an idea or even a scratch project like this would be. I still started off with a blank page and a pen, and I started writing to give an idea of a script or a story or a structure would be a better way of doing it. And I immediately thought that what I wanted was a beginning where it was just me on my own in the space, to try and see. The first question I wanted to ask was, what do I need to do to somehow convey the energy of, the energy, let's say, of the live presence, you know, the stage presence that you can't mimic or copy the power of being in the theater space as an audience member, but to explore what it means to be live online and live to the camera and see what is the same and what's different from a theater performance. So that's why my piece started with me on my own. And then we introduced the AI through her voice only. So there are a few different reasons for doing that, but one of them is to just the old-fashioned hint at the presence, tease at the presence, and let the audience start imagining what this entity is like. And then at the end, very close to the end of the piece, she enters the space. She walks in front of the camera, and you get to see her. I think it was a beautiful design that my colleague, my collaborator, Mairead Thomas, developed, where it was just these points of floating light around an actual avatar. And then there would be some form of interaction between me and her before it would end. So that was the original idea. And we managed to pull off most of it, but the challenges I think that we came up against was, the main challenge was that I didn't realize at the time, and that's what works in progress are for, and scratch projects are for, you're learning all the time, was that I was expecting an awful lot of a 7-year-old laptop, and the rendering of me and her going forward is something that is going to need more. I'm going to need to dedicate more time to that. I left that too close to the end of the process to get that right. And though I had tested it and I'd gotten it working, putting it all together just seemed to be too much for the computer and too much for the internet connection. But you know, I'm working off a laptop, off a mobile internet connection in rural Ireland. So, you know, that's I think it's important to push it right to the limit and then see where it breaks and where it falls down. That's a big part of what I want to do when I'm bringing technology into art. And then going forward, as you said, that's the exciting news, is that this In the Mouth of Fire was a sort of a hint or a prelude or an overture to the bigger piece, which is The Stars of Winter. And The Stars of Winter will be informed by the work that I've developed here over InterAction, but it will be in a space in front of a live audience. When, where, we don't know yet, but I think that's worth waiting for. I think you'd agree with me, Jane, it's definitely worth waiting for. Yeah. So I'm excited. And I've also, just to finish up, I am also extremely lucky, and I'm aware of how lucky I am to have this opportunity. And yeah, so I'm grateful. And I'm going to take a little break now and then get into more.
I'll be on your case at the end of next week. No, we're really excited to have you on board for the rest of the year. We're running out of time, so just 2 short announcements. One, I just want to let Feilim O'Halon say a quick word and to let you all know that this Zoom will be finishing in 5 minutes. However, we can all click back on and have a non-recorded little after party. But just very quickly, Feilim O'Halon created a work that was actually about Rusheen Bay in the west of Ireland, the area that I live in. I thought that the website was beyond anything that I thought you could create in a short amount of time. And also his connections with Lundell and Zytel meant that we got an amazing international guest on board for an app launch. So just very quickly, Feilim, just say your highs and your thanks, and we'll end this little wrap-up session. Feilim is on mute.
Hey guys, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, just like, it was such a cool experience to particularly get to collaborate with London Zytel. They're just really, really interesting. And I think that's the kind of work that we could bring to Galway and maybe learn from as makers here. But also just the fact that we were able to pull this program together was so interesting. And from the early conversations, about 2020 and what that could bring. I think it's important that we create these labs for people to develop ideas that are you can achieve so much more with digital processes, you know, which I think is very cool. And like, I think that that's something that we should continue to kind of develop more. And yeah, with Memory Lies, it was a very cool project to kind of collaborate maybe with software designers and, you know, photographers and stuff that I wouldn't normally have in the past. So like, it was a great, I guess, a process to make something that was not traditionally made in a normal theatre setting. So yeah, but particularly with the connection with London Sitel, I think it was really important for me as a maker, and I really benefited a lot from getting to hang out with them and yeah, having the chats really with them about a lot of cool projects that they're working on and stuff that they could bring to Galway soon.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I'm going to remute you there, Feilim, but thank you so much to all of the artists, to 2020, to Galway Theatre Festival, for giving me the opportunity to produce this project, and also to give the artists also a sense of stability in what is a very strange time. I look forward to working with all of the artists on future-proofing their works and hopefully creating physical aspects of these works, and especially looking forward to John and working with John Rogers on producing his show. So thank you, everyone. I'm gonna close down the video here, and if you want to join back in for a little after party, you can do so using the same link. Okay, thanks very much.